Welcome back, everyone. We are getting ready for our last group in the round of 32 for solo matches here at the Kart Rider Drift League.
It's your first solo match ever, Will.
It is, yeah. I'm excited for it. I mean, you know, obviously there is an element that's kind of unique to the team matches, but for solo matches, everyone is on their own. No team boosts, all your own to fill up your gauges. And this is the format, and the easiest way to explain this would simply be the round of 32. We have 4 groups. The top 4 move on. The bottom 4 is eliminated. After that, it turns into a double elimination format. If you stay in the top 4, you'll eventually make it to the final 8, where that will be the finals. Otherwise, you'll have to go through, you know, another round of losers matches and the potential final match.
Not only that, if you become the champion, there's a nice hefty pool of prize money, 10 million Korean won, followed by a bit less for the following places.
Yeah, but of course, you know, this being solos, that means you get to keep that for yourself. Now, the other thing to note about the prize money there would mean that you do have to get into the finals to take any share of that. Now, here are the results so far in the round of 32 bracket. We've already gone from A through C. That happened yesterday. And then today will be Group D. Only 4 more players will be entering the round of 16.
And so far, there has been a lot of upsets. You know, players like Hojun, we didn't really expect to see him drop so early, so we're expecting some really crazy results from Group D as well. I wonder, you know, players like Speed, who has been noted for being a really good player that adapted to the Kart Rider Drift, how will he do?
Yeah, and you know, it's kind of funny that you called out Hojun, of course, as such a legend within Kart Rider, but also just the rest of Sensation, right? 3 out of the 4 players have been knocked out. None of them made it to the round of 16. Only one of them remains here in Group D. We'll see if they can kind of keep the name of Sensation alive. But at the end of the day, you're also fighting for your own reputation here in the solo match.
And this is the best place to shine because you are not hidden behind a team. It is all about you and all about the speed, as we have our first player of the day, MINSIK from Group D.
Yeah, just saying, you know, I'll try to get an interview here in the solo matches as well, trying to prove that he's going to get that top spot to be the one who holds that interview here after the round of 32.
Yeah, very humble way to put it, but he is definitely set on getting that spot in the top 4. Of course, we have Ding, who is not as humble.
Yeah, now I do have to say, in that ace match against Jung, he didn't look, you know, he made a slight mistake and then he just could not catch up. Now, some people are saying the fact that he even got close to catching up proves that overall his racing itself is fine, but he did make that one crucial mistake, and when you're playing solo, there's 7 other racers that could come to bite you.
And here's another racer that could definitely bite things, but here is JiMin.
Yeah, JiMin, of course, coming in as the item ace over on Sandbox, so we'll see if he can prove himself here in solos as well. I mean, in general, people expect his racing skills to carry him into the round of 16.
Here we have AcidFly, who we got to see compete earlier today, and AcidFly, he is such a good runner, and coming into the group solo matches, I wonder how much he's going to take that solo running speed potential.
Yeah, AcidFly, one of the players that it's their first time entering solos here, now coming into Kart Rider Drift League, so see if he can handle that pressure. Of course, he's going up against the likes of Speed. Now again, this is that last remaining player from Sensation that is surviving so far here in the solo match.
Speed, he definitely wants to go home in a good mood, meaning not eliminated, so I wish the best for Speed.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of pressure on him, both for himself and, of course, his teammates. And it's going to be Spell, the only player from Rocks, competing in the solo matches. I mean, kind of in a similar boat as Speed.
He is the only one, but that also means he's the one that can bring all the glory to the Team Rocks, boosting his reputation as well as the team. So I'm excited to see Spell compete today.
Yeah, and YuMin, an interesting player here, the only player here in Group D who has only entered solos, not on a team here for the team matches, just going to try to prove himself in the solos. Now, of course, if he can prove himself and make it to the round of 16, teams might start eyeing him for the roster as well.
Yeah, there's another player, Perfect, who also is in the same boat, but he made it to the best of 16, so I hope to see that from YuMin as well. Of course, we have Vanilla. People say you can't beat those who enjoy it. I will have fun while destroying everything.
A lot of players seem to like to use some of these quotes. I mean, it's good to see, trying to gain some inspiration. Now, Vanilla, entered the Kart Rider League last year in Season 1, and then that was his only showing, so we'll see if he can try to prove himself here in the Kart Rider Drift League.
I hope so, Will. I want to see these players perform at their absolute top form today, because this is going to be 8 players all just alone. No team to rely on, no sweeping. Village Boom Mill Tunnel will be our track number 1.
And we're off, kicking off solo match now for the round of 32 in Group D. Now, just to explain for any of the newer viewers how solo matches work, is it's the first player to hit point of 50 points. If you can get 50 points based on your standings of each track, then the solo match will end, and the top 4 at that current standing will move on to the round of 16.
And look at these tight lines that were being hugged by Speed, Spell, and Ding. They were just absolutely holding that all the way down, and their positions haven't changed at all.
Yeah, I mean, Speed just trying to stay ahead. Now, Spell's giving him trouble. Now, the other reason you're going to want to vie for first is then you get track selection for that next track, so that's a huge benefit. But some players in the past have been happy to just always stay in top 3, right? Always get these high points, so that eventually they'll actually average out to 50 points first.
YuMin spinning out of control. He bumped the walls like 3 times there, back and forth.
Yeah, just a little ping-ponging back and forth, but he's able to still catch right back up. Now everyone on similar boost gauges, it looks like, based on what they've saved up. Speed looks like he should be fine unless he hits a little bump here on the shortcut, but he's got to clear it just fine on the first one. Spell should be happy to just take second, because it's not going to look like he has another chance to overtake Speed in the last 300 meters.
Speed is way too speedy for Spell right now. Spell definitely just going to go ahead and lock in that second place, followed by AcidFly, JiMin coming in to lock in their top 4.
Okay, so Speed kicking things off with an easy 10 points. That's what you get for being in first place. And of course, if you can keep that up, we might have a very, very quick solo match today. I mean, Speed, you're playing not only for yourself, but again, for Sensation to have some representation here in solo matches.
And Spell coming in at that second place is going to secure himself 7 points. So Speed already has built himself a 3-point advantage. And previously in the Speed Mode solos, we've seen an instance where players won just by 1 point. So these points are absolutely pivotal.
Yeah, and of course, if you get that last place, you actually get -1 point. So that's something to keep in mind as well. I mean, you know, you could be doing very well at the last minute. You lose, you know, maybe you get 8th place on the last track, and it forces you down a couple spots. I mean, if you're not in first place, maybe you even get knocked out of the top 4. It's going to be curious, but Speed is going to select Mine Winding Slopes as our next track. Another very difficult track to try to keep that lead here in the solo matches.
Kicking off our round number 2 of solo match. Of course, a favorite track for me and Wolf. Players will have a lot of room to be drifting around.
Yeah, we'll see if they can keep it, of course. I mean, early on, you already see these kind of hairpins with a very narrow space here in that alley to overtake. So really here, it's just about making sure you keep up that speed and you don't really lose too much. Of course, a couple bumps, but Speed's going to get that draft right away to catch up. Now here's the first big jump. Try to keep the optimal line here as he crosses that bridge. And we're going to see a couple players actually fall behind, hit a couple of those poles.
Dang, with the huge collision, he fell behind all the way, and now it's just JiMin, Speed, and MINSIK, and they are colliding too.
Yeah, at Speed, I mean, he was definitely trying to prioritize making sure you can get that shortcut safely as well. Sometimes you take a little bit of a loss to get 2 steps ahead. Now entering this tunnel with all the pipes, obviously most players, they memorize the exact location, so there shouldn't be any collisions. But is there a chance to overtake? It doesn't look like all of them prime position to enter these shortcuts.
This is a narrow path right now. JiMin looking like he is almost uncontestable, blocking out MINSIK successfully.
Oh!
Wow, Speed!
Yeah, Speed tries to green around that final hairpin just to stay in 3rd place, but he's actually going to hit a wall and get bumped all the way down to 5th place. Meanwhile, MINSIK versus JiMin, the last jump, but MINSIK's in a much better position. JiMin just trying to position to make sure he doesn't get knocked further behind, and MINSIK will be taking 1st place.
And they're staying in. Speed coming in for that 3rd and 4th place finish. Coming in okay, I would say, for Speed. Previously, he got the 1st place, so he's already had a nice lead. I feel like coming in 4th is a pretty consistent result so far.
Yeah, I mean, overall, if you're Speed, you're doing just okay, right? Especially because you also have to consider who got first place afterwards. It's actually MINSIK, who had 0 points, so he's only going to be sitting at that 10-point total score. Meanwhile, everyone else kind of averaging out, and Speed should be comfortably up front as well.
What a comeback for MINSIK. Previously in round number 1, he secured himself 7th place, but now, with that first place, he's moved up to 3rd place, tied with Spell.
Yeah, I mean, I'm curious to see if this keeps up here. I mean, Speed, can he keep up the lead? Again, you get first place just a couple times, and then you're able to just kind of cruise through, just get the podium finishes, you know, even just top 4, and you'll be able to eventually hit 50 points first.
50 points is definitely the goal for all these players. They want to hit that first because the second a player hits it, everyone else, their results get tallied. There's no more chances whatsoever.
All right, curious to see MINSIK what his choice of track is going to be here for track number 3. All right, we're heading over to another new theme here for the solo matches as we continue on to track 3. MINSIK's pick is going to be Glacier Extreme Stadium. And we're off. See if Speed or MINSIK can try to keep this lead to make sure they assert their dominance in terms of the points as well.
The bodies, they were all touching each other, I swear, all 8 players, but now DDing is building himself a lead along with Vanilla and Spell. We can see at the back here, MINSIK really far behind.
Yeah, and Speed as well. He's now trying to catch up here in the tunnel. He is going to enter that middle of the pack, and everyone's still close enough. I mean, with this much distance, over on the last hairpins, you should have a chance to overtake. If not, you know, going into that second lap. Okay, just trying to block for, you know, against each other as well, trying to make sure they stay ahead. Now, you got to remember, when it's solos, you're up against everybody else. I mean, you could very well get collisions that were never intended to happen.
And in the top 4 coming into the hairpin spins, it's going to be DDing and Spell, Speed, and Vanilla. The top 3.
Oh, Speed! He tries too much to try to cut that jump close, and he's going to get knocked all the way back. He's now sitting comfortably in 5th place. Not anywhere in sight here on the mini-map, and it's now just a 1v1 battle between Spell and DDing.
This is a huge opportunity for Spell and DDing. DDing trying to take the tighter lines, but they are taking the same path right now. Looking for the drafting angle. DDing does manage to take the lead.
Yeah, I mean, between these 2 players, it's really just about who gets the track selection on the next one. We saw it on the overall minimap there in the bottom right corner earlier. It seems like the front of the pack, the top 4, are well ahead from the rest. We don't even see them in the in-game minimap, so it's really about DDing versus Spell and then JiMin versus MINSIK. If MINSIK can get into the top 3, he's going to be able to break into that first place in terms of points.
Unfortunately, MINSIK got dragged by the wall. Now he's sitting far behind the 4th place, but Spell gets bopped as well. Now MINSIK coming in strong at the 2nd place.
Oh, and Speed actually shoots all the way forward, uses this opportunity. He's now in 2nd place, no one to collide with him. He's got both boosts lined up. He should be fine. Now Spell just trying to catch up. Can he get on the podium as well to get a couple extra points? It's DDing, Speed, and then it should be Spell coming in 3rd place.
Wow, that was a crazy race. I feel like a lot of players were dropping back and forth. The ranks were absolutely fluctuating.
Yeah, a lot. I mean, especially because we thought Speed was going to just sit in 5th place for the longest time, but he actually shoots all the way back forward.
And we see right now, of course, Speed, he was previously the leader with 14 points at rank 1, coming in at a 2nd place finish here in round number 3 is going to be a really good position for him. Of course, DDing now being able to pick the next track.
Yeah, we'll see. DDing, can he continue to try to climb up? He's in the middle of the pack, so he's sitting okay. Meanwhile, AcidFly, Vanilla, and YuMin, they do need a little bit of extra work here.
A little bit, maybe a lot.
You know what, it is a lot, yeah. But here's the thing, they just have to enter the top 4, right, to move on to the round of 16. I mean, you don't have to necessarily be the first one to get 50 points. You only have to do that in the finals. You don't have to do that to move on in the tournament. So curious to see if they're able to average out. Now, DDing, he's going to continue the Glacier theme here for us as we get ready for track number 4. It's going to be Glacier Snowbound Slopes.
We're off. We have Spell, AcidFly, and YuMin leading out the pack, going for the cuts to build themselves a nice lead on that boost gauge, and it's going well so far because now on this drift here, they will be able to boost forward.
Yeah, Spell just trying to keep that lead. Now, we saw this yesterday in the solo mode as well. Right here on these slopes, the downward slopes and the hairpins. Once you get a lead, I mean, you're going to sit fairly comfortable. It's quite narrow. There's not too many easy ways to overtake each other without taking some big risks. But afterwards, it's about who's able to maintain their speed as much as possible as they're cutting on these downward slopes, as they're trying to drift around and just make sure they manage their boost gauge.
JiMin looking really strong at the front of the pack. Speed and Spell following right behind. They are taking the tightest lines, but Speed manages to block out Spell, proving more distance between JiMin and the rest.
Yeah, we're still fairly bunched up now. See if anyone takes the riskier lines here towards the center. All just trying to cut around, and they're actually just trying to eye for each other, see if anyone greens it. And AcidFly, by simply not doing anything, is able to get in front as some of his opponents hit the trees.
It's funny how that works. Sometimes you just don't greed and play the classic, most optimal line, and it works.
Yeah, of course, now everyone taking that little ski lift, and things somewhat reset. Of course, it's still in order of entering, so you're going to start in those same positions, but it is a prime opportunity for you to catch up depending on how you saved up your boost gauges.
And I must shout out Speed right now for his consistency. He is sitting at rank 1 once again, and he is rank 1 of the group overall. If he keeps getting points at this rate, we might not have too many tracks left because 50 points are starting to get close to.
Yeah, and this was one of the things that a lot of people predicted for Group D today, is that you have a couple of these players, it's their first time entering the solo mode, but if you have some veterans who are able to just shoot forward, or people who have just really grinded it for solo mode, they might actually just get the 50 points first and finish it before you have a chance to enter the top 4.
Speaking of veterans, we have Speed and JiMin neck to neck right now, but Speed has the lead. JiMin looking for the outer angle, trying to take over. However, Speed is relentless, not giving up any possible chance. JiMin with the tiny collision on the wall there is now going to fall behind. Okay,
JiMin, you have to kind of keep a cool head and think about, okay, maybe I just try to fight for second place, because by trying to greed, you've actually lost enough speed that Vanilla's starting to catch up. That means you get less points. You have to make sure that you're sitting comfortable. You already have 15 points on the board. You're tied with Spell. If you can enter in second place, no, he's going to lose it out to Vanilla. But what's important is his opponent, Spell, who is tied with 15 points, has gotten a much lower standing, so it's going to be an okay finish for JiMin.
That is going to be so disastrous because Spell, although he was in second place overall, he was only 1 point away from 4th place, and you have to be top 4 to not be eliminated.
Yeah, again, sometimes, you know, we'll kind of focus on who's close to 50 points just so we know when it finishes, but at a certain point, it actually starts to matter about, you know, what do the 3rd, 4th, 5th place look like, right? How are their finishes going to matter in terms of who actually moves on to the round of 16?
YuMin getting a nice lead for himself there in this round. However, overall, he was quite far behind, so he's still at that 8th place. But in the top 4, we have Speed, JiMin, Spell, and Ding. He is 5 points ahead of rank 5 in MINSIK. MINSIK has a lot of work to do with Vanilla.
Yeah, and meanwhile, YuMin, of course, kind of only entering the solo mode today, but if he can't start to get, you know, some of these first places, let's be very honest, he's not going to be able to climb into the top 4, so his career here, the preseason 1 of KDL, may end a little bit earlier. Now we're waiting to find out what the next selection is going to be from Speed. This is already his 2nd selection here.
Yeah, I mean, Speed is basically getting all the advantage for himself, but he absolutely earned it by getting that 1st place position. So far, I'm really worried for AcidFly because this is a player that we know is great at being a runner. However, he is sitting at 7th place in 8 points. He is about 7 points away from being top 4.
Yeah, I mean, again, a long ways ahead for him, but, you know, sometimes if, you know, for instance, Speed doesn't get the first places anymore, it's going to slow down, it's going to give you a couple extra tracks to work forward and try to enter that top 4. Speed this time is going to change themes for us. We're switching back over to the Mine theme. It's going to be Mine Gold Rush. And they're off. Speed just trying to finish the solo match as fast as possible. He currently has 31 points, 2 more first places, and we could be seeing the end of today's solo match.
Speed really making sure that his opponents are feeling the pressure. We have YuMin and JiMin and Ding trying to come up in that 2-3-4. However, Speed, He has been relentless so far, but he does manage to fall back now.
Yeah, I mean, Ding was also trying to greed for that inside line there on that last corner, so Speed just making way, doesn't want to risk anything too much. Same thing for Ding, and now they're sitting comfortably in first and second place. Now, to be very honest, for Speed, it's not the end of the world if Ding gets first place, right? He's sitting at 15 points, he's 16 points behind. You'll be okay with that second place finish, but obviously that does mean you'll have to play at least one extra track.
We do have AcidFly trying to recover. He's sitting at that top 3 spot. As we see, these three are so close in each other's line, you could almost not see each other's body. Speed about to lock in that first place once again, going into lap number 2.
Yeah, and JiMin actually took a great inside corner there, and he's just trying to cut as safely as possible without colliding too much, see if he can overtake the front of the pack here. My eyes are on JiMin as he shoots forward into third place. The Observer now following forward with us as he tries to make sure, can he get the optimal course here on the inside. AcidFly's trying to block it, but JiMin just hugs the wall as closely as possible, continuing the double boost so he constantly fills up his gauge as well.
JiMin hugging that line all the way down was so good, but he does fall behind now as we see Speed, MINSIK, and DDing coming up again. These three players have been so consistently contesting that top 3, and their drifts are beautiful. They are not giving it up.
Yeah, Speed choosing not to take the risk there on that second corner, just takes a bit of a wider drift, but he is keeping up in terms of the boost against the other two players. Can he finish him first? Because that means we might only be one track away, and Speed is going to enter. He gets 10 extra points and now sitting at 41.
Man, Speed is absolutely out of his mind right now. Somebody needs to put a leash on this guy because we had DDing, MINSIK, and JiMin coming in at 2, 3, 4, but it doesn't really matter because Speed is the guy that everyone right now needs to be wary of. We need to start seeing strats potentially, people intentionally body blocking Speed just to buy more rounds for themselves.
I mean, yeah, we could see that happen, right? I mean, we'll see. But again, I mean, you have to consider, for instance, you know, for the likes of DDing or JiMin, you're also already in the top 4. You're fairly ahead of the rest of the pack. So maybe you're saying, okay, I mean, if Speed's in first place, maybe I don't greet it, right? You know, Speed just gets first place. If I'm second, whatever, I'll still move on to the round of 16. There's a lot to consider here. And I just got to say, Peter, some might say Speed is a speed demon.
Speed demon?
Yeah, I just want to get that out of my head.
Nothing I can say against that. This guy is absolutely a demon, a god, you name it. And I must say, though, the 3, 4, 5 position is not too far apart. It's DDing, Spell, MINSIK, 22, 18, 15. This match will be really deciding as we get ready to move on into round number 6. It will be held in Desert Ancient Aqueducts. And the race begins. We have YuMin at the front of the pack.
Yeah, and now we just got to remember, if Speed finishes first, the solo match is over for the day. We will take the top 4 players in total points at that time, and they will move on to the round of 16. Currently, it's going very likely for Speed, JiMin, DDing, and then the rest, it could kind of bounce back and forth. Of course, Spell currently in 4th place with 18 points.
Speed being in first place spells bad news for a lot of the players here because 10 points means it is 51 points in total, meaning this is the final track. YuMin and DDing, they definitely don't want that happening. You see the players coming in, taking the tight lines, trying to get the drifts in, going for the optimal boost gauge increase, and so far, Speed uncontested.
Yeah, I mean, for the likes of players like YuMin and Vanilla, obviously you just want to overtake Speed so he doesn't get first place, so you buy more time for more tracks. But then you think about the likes of MINSIK, it might just come down to making sure that you're well ahead of Spell so that you actually break into the top 4 over Spell.
A lot of interesting strategies that our players are opting for, but we are now in the final lap. YuMin being able to cut out Speed, that's really all that needs to happen. Speed just needs to be not in first place for us to have another track.
Yeah, and if it goes this way right now, MINSIK's sitting at 8th place, so he doesn't have any hope of entering the top 4. Now, of course, if YuMin finishes first, or in fact, anybody but Speed, we will get more opportunities. So MINSIK perhaps a little bit happy right now, despite being in 8th place, that he's going to have yet another track potentially. But Speed gets right back into first place.
Oh no, YuMin, he hit the wall and he fell behind quite a bit, but he does manage to recover a bit. Now Speed once again, sitting at first place. JiMin trying to be the hero to save other players' lives, blocking Speed from advancing.
Yeah, I mean, of course, JiMin also just playing for his own rapport as well, but now that does mean that this might extend it. JiMin trying to block him. He just wants to make sure he gets first place. JiMin wants more first places under his belt, and he's going to deny that first place. In fact, it's going to be JiMin and YuMin coming in the 1-2 position.
Hero JiMin saves the day. I cannot count even on my one hand how many times he blocked out Speed in that final lap. It seemed like Speed was trying to take a bit more of an outward angle, but even that was blocked out beautifully by JiMin.
Yeah, I mean, I think right there what JiMin did more than anything was prove that he's just as great of a speed racer, right? I mean, the way he was utilizing not only his own race and his speed, but the way he was positioning, like you said, the way he was kind of playing these physical skirmishes allows him to stay strongly in second place and now extend this solo match. Now for JiMin, the positive sign is now he's really increased that gap between him and Ding into 8 points. So no matter how this race ends, he should sit fairly comfortably in the top 4.
The bad news on the other side is the gap between rank 4 and 5 has significantly increased. Spell at 21 points, 7 points ahead of MINSIK, who's at 14 points. This is looking tough.
All right, well, JiMin's pick is going to be World Tour Terracotta Twist. We'll see if he can keep this up, or his speed is finally going to end this speed match. And we're off. Now Speed only has to finish in the top 4 to reach the 50 points needed to end the speed match here for the round of 32 Group D.
It was so hard to keep Speed out of that first place position. How much harder it's going to be to keep him out of top 4, but so far Vanilla and MINSIK taking the beautiful drifts, the most optimal lines possible. They are not losing any momentum so far.
Yeah, we'll see Speed again, just a top 4 finish needed, and then he'll be the first to reach 50. Meanwhile, no one else able to reach 50 just yet. JiMin is closest at 34, but he's going to need at least 2 tracks to do so. But again, that's only if Speed doesn't finish in the top 4, which currently it looks like he has no intention of letting happen. He's actually going to overtake on these difficult twists and turns. He actually jumps right over the edge of some of those corners without dropping, and he's able to take first place so far.
Speed, this guy, he was unfazed by the trickiest part of Terracotta Twister, still locking in that top 2 spot for himself coming into this lap number 2. JiMin and Ding, they're doing great, but it doesn't matter if Speed is just going to be speeding across.
Yeah, I mean, at this point, we have to start to consider the implications here. Currently, the point standings are Speed, JiMin, Ding, and Spell, and there is no way for Spell to be knocked out if he's in the top 4 as well. He would have to finish 8th, while MINSIK finishes in the top, 1-2 position for him to be overtaken here going into this last lap. I mean, we might just see everything finish as is right now for this round of 32.
As is the story that we're looking at currently. Speed sitting in that ranked position. This is the last chance for players to have some big fluctuation in the rankings. You want to go for a risky body block and maybe try to boop someone off.
Oh, and we are actually going to see Speed get knocked down. He was trying to play it as safely as possible. Can he get into the top 4 to finish this race? He's, no! He tries to jump right across at the end.
Speed.
And yet another chance bought. In fact, potentially 2 more chances because Speed finishes in 8th place. That's a -1 point. It's a -1.
This is going crazy. I mean, Speed was doing so great, but finally at that tricky part of the Terracotta Twister, Speed getting the bad end of that one.
Wow, I actually am so impressed because Speed was even trying to play it somewhat safe there on those last corners. You could tell he had no intention of greeting to keep first place. He just wanted to get by without falling off. And everyone else said, nope, we're in a rush. We have to go through whether you're in our way or not.
Wow.
He gets knocked off twice, once in, into the pit, once into the wall. And now he loses a point. He's sitting at 45.
You have to wonder, JiMin and Ding, they're not too far behind. JiMin, for instance, at rank 2, only 6 points behind. If Speed manages to hiccup like that again, things could change.
Very well, right? I mean, if JiMin finishes first, and then we see Speed end in 4th or worse, JiMin's either going to tie him or overtake him for a potential first place finish. Now we are going to see the next pick from Ding. It's going to be Desert Construction Chaos as we continue on to track number 8.
Track number 8 begins. You have to keep in mind that Speed, last time he had to be in the top 4, but this time he has to be in the top 3, so the task became harder and he's in 8th place right now.
Yeah, I mean, you know, every extra track Speed is potentially losing the chance to get interviewed here. Now, I don't think there's a good chance for him to be knocked out of the top 4 already with 45 points unless he, you know, continues to hit 8th place and loses points. But obviously, you know, kind of entering into the round of 16 as first place from your group in the round of 32, that holds a lot of weight as well for your own personal record.
Yeah, there's the prize money as well, and of course right now a lot of pressure being built on this top 4. Body blocks happening everywhere, and players are getting tackled out left and right. You look at Vanilla.
Yeah, Vanilla's just bouncing around. Meanwhile, Ding, no opposition. He's able to just take a very safe full drifts around each corner. He's gonna just be able to boost right through here, just taking the straightaway on the zigzag as well. And AcidFly, he's doing what he can to contest. Now, AcidFly has a long way to go if he wants to enter the top 4, so he's desperate for a 1 or 2 finish.
Meanwhile, Ding, he is sitting 3rd place overall, so Ding definitely has a chance to grab himself the 1st place finish potentially if he can keep up this lead moving into lap number 2.
Yeah, again, I mean, Speed is at 8th place, so it does not look like we're going to finish anytime soon. Looks like we're going to have at least 1 extra track. Now, Ding saying, you know what, I'll take matters into my own hand. If he finishes first here, he'll enter 46 points, and then he just has to get into the top 4 to finish the solo matches.
Man, Speed is really dragging this one this time, sitting at 7th place, giving a really easy room right now for the top 5. There's MINSIK and JiMin getting blocked out. You know, Ding and JiMin, these 2 players are definitely trying to keep up at the front.
Yeah, JiMin, you can kind of tell it in the way he's driving right now that he wants to fight for that 1st place, or at least just try to get ahead in points so he can actually be the one who gets interviewed here in the Group D of the round of 32. Now, he's in position. He's going to slow down just a bit to make sure he doesn't collide into the corners, make sure he at least gets that top 3 finish.
Collision would definitely be a bad news here. Near the end, only 500 meters
Speed,
left.
he's trying to overtake. He's already entered here in the middle of the pack. He's been able to try to speed through that zigzag, but it's not going to be in the top 3. He sits at 49 points, and 49. We still go 1 extra track.
1 point difference. Earlier, we emphasized the importance of just saying 3 points, how much lead that can build you, and now we're here. Speed having to go another match just because he's 1 point behind 50.
Yeah, now here's the thing. For the players who have been much further behind, you know, the likes of AcidFly, MINSIK, YuMin, and Vanilla, things are not looking too good. There's so many ways this can end on the next track. Ding is now sitting at 46 points, Speed at 49. I mean, Speed literally just has to enter the top 6 to enter 50 points. Meanwhile, JiMin and Ding actually sitting at 46 points. So, you know, JiMin and Ding, if either of them enter top 4, or if Speed is in the top 6, the solo matches for the day will end.
Yeah, I mean, 1 player, that's all it takes to reach 50 points, and then the points will be tallied, and it'll be just based on who has the overall highest points.
Of course.
For instance, 55 points, if that's the highest, that is going to be the 1st place. So this last track is so important.
Yeah, I mean, we'll see who takes that glory. Well, this time we are going to be taken to a factory theme map for today's solo matches. It's going to be Factory Facility 5. And we're off in what most likely will be the last track of the night, as 3 players are in prime position to enter the 50-point mark and finish today's solo matches.
The top 3 players, Ding, Speed, and JiMin, these 3 players are absolutely competing for that top 1 finish spot today. This is only a 1-lapper, so no mistakes can be made. YuMin dropping. Fortunately, he's not competing for top 1.
Yeah, he's not anywhere close to that, and quite frankly, I would actually have to run the math a little bit here. All right, no one, by the way, no one taking the crazy Neo builds there just to overtake anybody, but I actually think this almost ends no matter what. I mean, 3 of these players, 2 of them just have to enter top 4, 1 of them just has to enter top 6. The stats really say that it's going to be very tough for all of them to enter in like 6th, 7th, and 8th place.
And speaking of stats, Speed, Ding, and JiMin all in top 4 right now. Ding has that slight advantage over Speed, but Speed is a player that can definitely find opportunities to overtake you.
Yep, and Speed is just staying ahead, and quite frankly for Spell as well in 4th place, no one can overtake him quite easily from that 5th place mark. So, you know, if either Speed or Ding finish the way they are right now, this should be a top 4 finish of Speed, Ding, JiMin, and Spell. We'll see if it continues that way.
Speed still taking the lead, trying to block out Ding for making sure that he doesn't go over him. There's only 500 meters left, and Ding and Speed are neck to neck.
Oh, Ding jumps right out of him. He actually blocks him towards the end. He's going to continue. He tries to block the draft, but no, Speed! He gets right ahead of him with the draft, and Ding not able to stay ahead. Speed will be the first place finish here in Group D of the round of 32.
What a story for Speed today. I feel like we just witnessed a roller coaster in the making, performing so well and consistent, but all of a sudden choking a bit, getting the worst possible results, but he manages to get the recovery that he needs in this final round.
Yeah, and you know, maybe Speed just wanted the absolute maximum points you can get, which is 59, because you would have to sit at 49 and then get first place and 10 points. So he hits that potential maximum score in solos, and Speed not only furthering his individual career by entering the round of 16 for the first preseason of the Kartrider Drift League, but he also keeps the name of Sensational alive here in the solos.
And not only that, the top 4 players of Group D today had a really sizable lead against the bottom 4 of the group. And I feel like that says a lot about these players' skills, as we see a nice keyboard.
Oh, nice little decoration going on as well. And, you know, just to note, I mean, yeah, we've talked about Speed just because of how consistent he's been throughout today's solo match performance, but then you have the likes of Ding, JiMin, and even Spell, and we gotta also remember, even there, Ding and JiMin were quite a ways ahead of Spell in terms of total points. So I think even the players who have moved on from this Group D, it's gonna be a great match in the round of 16. And JiMin, we saw, you know, him there on the camera once again, but quite frankly, him being the item ace for Sandbox Gaming, and he comes in and says, I can be just as good in solos. This is very impressive.
A fan of JiMin with the cheerful, asking him to win it all, and he didn't win it all in the first place, but not being eliminated, I think that's a result that you should be happy about.
I mean, again, you just have to get into the round of 16, right? You only have to really greed for that first place once you get to the final 8. And we've seen that from players in the past, in Kartrider League, before we entered Kartrider Drift League, where you just try to get the podium finishes just to get through and through and through, and then towards the end, you kind of shoot forward, try to go for that first place. We'll see if JiMin can replicate that kind of success.
Yeah, I mean, JiMin, it is a sad story for him, falling only by 4 points behind, ending at rank 3, because the top 4 of each group, I believe, will have a consolidation group of their own compared to the bottom 4. So definitely a lot of results were so close, but at the end of the day, your position in the standings is what matters.
Yeah, I mean, you at least made it to the round of 16, and just as a reminder, the round of 16 is a double elimination format, so you have 2 opportunities to try to continue to move on and keep your hopes alive of entering the final A tier for solo matches in the first preseason of KDL. Oh, that's already a lot of time bought.
A lot of time bought, and time is pretty much the most expensive thing you can buy. We can argue you can't even buy it, right?
No, you definitely can't. Well, unless you're Speed and you just keep finishing races a lot faster than everybody else, and you'll just have more time on your hands. But yeah, I mean, again, impressive showing from Speed. I mean, just being dominant the entire time.
Yeah, and this is the rookie that was highlighted on the team Sensation, who also just had a really star-studded lineup. So it was kind of surprising for me getting to listen to them talking about their strategies, pointing out Speed as the player. He's just been so good at adapting to Kartrider Drift, and they didn't lie to us.
Yeah, and that's the other thing we gotta remember, right? I mean, so many of these players, they can have all sorts of history, in other universes of Kartrider, whether it's Kartrider League, whether it's KRPL, Kartrider Rush Plus League, but Kartrider Drift is a new universe, right? It's a new iteration, and we're seeing some players are adapting a little better, they're adapting a little quicker. Some players are still trying to struggle to find their own pacing here in Kartrider Drift.
And that's what's really tough about competitions. It was definitely just separated into players who did really good and players who did struggle.
Yeah, so we'll have to kind of keep an eye on who grows as we continue with the preseason, but let's take a look at what happened today overall. We started with team match number 10. It was Racinggame going up against Planet, and we were gifted with yet another ace match.
Ace match, we love them, keep them coming. Rox We definitely saw so much from this team so far, and I am honestly thinking that we haven't even seen their full potential. Jung, such a good player for their lineup, always coming in clutch when needed.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just curious, what kind of player Jung grows into here in the KDL, because he has such a honored reputation over at the KRPL. Now, for our second match, it was a bit more one-sided. Aura taking the win with both speed and item wins, and that means FINALEe, unfortunately, currently still sitting with 0 wins in the team matches.
FINALEe-sports, I'm sure they picked up a lot of new fans today, even just out of sympathy, because we don't want to see a team drag far behind. We want to see a tight, close competition, and I'm sure FINALEe wants that too.
Yeah, and so the standings so far for the team matches, of course, Live Sandbox and Guangdong Freaks, kind of the two monster teams. Of course, they also have the infrastructure and the history behind them as well. They're sitting at 2 wins, 0 losses. Meanwhile, at the bottom, Sensation barely scraping by with 1 win, but FINALEe with 0. Both those teams will have a lot of homework cut out for them for the rest of the team match.
And the two teams, Aura and Rox, who both won their match today, did move up into rank 3 and 4, so I am sure they're happy about today.
Yeah, look at the players who made the round of 16. I mean, we started with players like Insu and Hyunsu, the duo over on Group A, and we rounded out today with players like Speed and Ding. I mean, round of 16 is looking stacked.
Super stacked. I mean, at this point, you already had a really stacked 32-man lineup, and now when you put that into a 16, you can't really single out any of these players to be a underdog. Everyone is just a really strong player with a great record.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, there are standouts like Neil, right, like Insu, just because of their history as well, but I think we have to wait and see. This is the first preseason for the Kartrider Drift League, so we'll have to wait and see how that pans out. Now, ladies and gentlemen, we'll take a couple days break. We will be returning on April 19th on Wednesday, and as it is Wednesday, we'll only have 3 team matches.
3 team matches, but look at the first one.
Ooh, Guangdong Freaks versus Live Sandbox. One of them finally takes a loss.
We gotta write this one down into our calendars. It's a giant versus giant. We don't know who's gonna win that one.
No, that's a tough one to call. And then it's FINALEe-sports versus Sensation, the 2 teams at the bottom, trying to get, either their first win or just one more win to try to climb into the top 4.
Wow, we are filming a movie on Wednesday. So many storylines coming into a clash. And of course, for match number 14, it's going to be Aura versus Rox, 2 teams that had stellar results today, once again fighting to keep up their win streak.
Yeah, and then trying to really solidify their place in the top 4. Well, ladies and gentlemen, that does it for us here from the casting desk for the global stream. Thank you so much for joining us. My name was William Cho. I was joined by Peter today, and the Kartrider Drift League will return on Wednesday. We'll see you then.